All right, everybody. Hi. Welcome back to another episode of Top Bin Talks. This is episode 10, I believe. And today we're joined by a new co-host again. We've had Julian D'Souza before. This time, though, it is the founder of First Touch Football, Mr. Marcus Hanson. Marcus, how you doing?
What's going on, guys? I'm doing well, Adam. Yourself?
I'm doing well. Thanks for hopping on, man. Obviously, someone who I've got to know very well over the last 4.5 years or so now when we first met, bringing me on to FTF, which has been fantastic. And seeing as this is our very first podcast that we're filming in February, it's Black History Month, man. As someone who's grown up as an African American in Canada, just kind of talk about what this holiday, what this kind of month means to you, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Black History Month is huge. Being African American myself, as you mentioned, it's just been it. You always you take time to reflect back. I think from all the ancestors and stuff like that, what they had to go through, slavery and different times and racism and things of that nature, and kind of paved the way to allow myself and others to kind of do what they do now. So it's definitely a time of reflection. I love seeing like the different types of social media posts. My dad was the one, ironically enough, my mom and dad growing up where I was, suburban Mississauga, they used to come into like our elementary schools and like run their own little assembly thing that the whole school used to see. And I remember I used to get really excited when they came in because one, they were my parents and you always like to brag about your parents, but two, just reflecting back on it now, how much it meant to them, and things of that nature. So yeah, definitely a massive month, and big for the culture. Like I said, like to see all the different things when you get across and just reflect, like spend time, speak to my grandmother, and just have different types of conversations you wouldn't normally have throughout the year around this time. So it's definitely special.
No, that's awesome. And you know what? I know we were gonna jump into something else kind of right after that, but let's just start with just letting everyone know a little bit more about yourself. So obviously like where you grew, you talked about growing up in Saga.
Mm-hmm. The best place in the world, baby.
Oh
Best
yeah,
place in the
sure.
world.
Oh yeah, the hood. From what I've seen, at least I've only seen one part, mind you. But
That is funny. Yeah,
um,
different parts
just,
of Saga for sure.
just kind of go through kind of like where your youth career was, and then obviously going on to post secondary down in the States, and yeah, just kind of give everyone kind of a brief overview if they don't
Definitely.
haven't already known and met you and spoken to
Yeah,
you.
yeah. For those who don't know me or have met me, yeah, Marcus Hanson from Mississauga, Ontario. As I joke around with my team, the best city in the world. Forget Las Vegas, forget Miami. The place to be is Mississauga. So yeah, I grew up there my whole life. Played youth soccer for clubs like North Mississauga, which is fairly popular. And yeah, I just kind of went through the youth ranks there. I was always pretty big for my age. So I was born in 1994. But yeah, I was always pretty big for my age. So I always played with like 93s and stuff. So at North Miss, played with guys like Daniil Henry, who's kind of a fairly household name now in Canadian soccer circles, and a few other guys. We had a pretty good North Miss 1993 team back then, and then yeah, kind of bounced around. Played for Patrice Geyser in my last year, basically of high school, and that was at SC Toronto before he went to Vaughan. Obviously, he's now at Halifax, and he kind of helped me find my scholarship to the University of Buffalo. So I played there for 4 years, and loved every moment of it. I tell people I went to school in Buffalo, and they all kind of like smirk or look at me with the side eye. So I just want to get some things on record. Number one, the program used to be Division 1, and it canceled, so you can't look for it anymore. But it definitely was a Division 1 men's soccer program. I tell people now, and they think it's like D3 or something like that. Nothing against those levels, of course, but it was a Division 1 soccer program before it got canceled. And number two, Buffalo actually has 40,000 undergraduates at the school. So it's not the armpit of America like the misconception is. Shout out to Detroit Mercy. We're not on those levels. It was actually a proper university. And yeah, so that's where I did my undergrad. Came back home, worked a little bit, did my master's in sport management at Brock University, and then here we are. Here we are with FTF in year three. I don't know. It depends how you take COVID, but basically year four, year five of operation here at FTF. So yeah, things are moving.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely moving, and they're moving. I know every year we seem to grow and more shit seems to come up, and and we're going. But yeah, apparently Marcus owns every record at Buffalo as well. There's no record of it because it's canceled, but
You can't search it. I don't own records. That would be Russell Cicerone, who, shout out to him if he's listening. He plays at Sac Republic right now. I think he has literally every record under the sun. But yeah, I'm somewhere there. The program only lasted like 10 years. So I got to be somewhere in assist. I used to have a long throw, so I know I got a couple of those on the assist side of things. Good old American hockey assist soccer. So yeah, I know I'm somewhere there.
yeah, those nice solitary points. Those are always good.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. And then hey, I mean, obviously the biggest news in Canada soccer has been the John Herdman stuff.
Correct.
When you first heard the news, what were your first what was your first impression?
Yeah. I didn't believe it. I didn't know how big it was. I think that was the first thing. So I woke up, standard thing when I wake up and just check my phone a little bit, kind of see what's going on, brush teeth, whatever, eat breakfast. I'm at breakfast and I'm just scrolling on Twitter, looking at some stuff. And I see this like sketchy article or like one person kind of talking about it saying Herdman's like agreed to terms with the New England or the New Zealand Federation. I think I was just like comatose to it because I've seen so many agreed to terms things in like transfer window right now with like, well, I'm an Arsenal fan. We'll get into that a little bit later, but with my boy from Shakhtar Donetsk, I forget his name now. I've completely wiped his name out of my
Yeah,
memory.
you don't need to know it.
Yeah, exactly. So we apparently agreed to terms with him, personal terms, and you hear all these different things going on. So I was just like, okay, this is kind of not a big deal. And as people know, if you know a little bit about FTF, like when we see big news stories, like we're supposed to put it into this group chat, and then our team like kind of puts it together, and then we get it up on our Instagram channel. So I truthfully scrolled right by it. I was just like, yeah, this can't be real. There's no way he actually is gonna leave. And then I just kind of saw the story unraveling. I think someone on our team actually put it into that group chat like they're supposed to do. And I just saw on our socials like how much attention it was getting, how much retweets it was getting, and then people were kind of talking about it. And then I knew it was really big when like TSN, who basically talk about hockey during this time of year, even had a little bit of a snippet on it. I was like, oh, okay, so this is actually blowing up. So didn't think it was ever true. Obviously he's come out since, but yeah, what did you think about the whole thing? I never thought it was going to happen. So to wrap up what I was saying, I don't think he was ever going to leave, and I just thought it was just someone just talking shit, long story short.
Yeah, like when I first looked at it, I was like, that's bullshit. No chance.
Yeah,
And I started to think about it like a little bit of being like, okay, because then the more stuff came out, it was like, oh, this could be legitimate, like,
for sure.
and all this stuff. So I started thinking, I'm like, okay, if it was legitimate, why would it be legitimate?
Yeah,
I actually like, again, this is just the way I guess my brain works. And some people's like, I looked at it and was like, oh no, he might be doing this.
yeah,
Like if you look at like when he took over the Canadian women, they had finished dead last in their World Cup
for sure.
group, their lowest point. You could say he overachieved with that group. Now there's expectation. He jumped ship to the men who were at their lowest point.
Yeah,
Went through, overachieved. Now there is a shit ton of expectation on that group. And he didn't come off great at the World Cup.
yeah,
So I looked at it and I went, and I said, why would he ever leave given everything that's coming up? Well, if he thinks he's potentially out of his depth, I was like, that I could see where that would now come up and why he might do it. But at the same time, why would you? Like,
yeah.
given everything going on, like it was one of those things where I was like, I could see it based on past patterns,
Yeah.
but it still didn't make sense.
So yeah, you start to see everyone on social, and I was a victim of this for sure. They're like, it doesn't make sense why he would leave. Like he basically did the hard stuff, as in grabbing them from the basement, taking them to a World Cup they didn't automatically qualify for. In 4 years, he gets to automatically qualify. Like you're already in. So why not? Like you only get, why would you leave? You get to say at bare minimum, you get to coach 2 World Cup cycles at bare minimum. So
Yeah.
why in the world would you pull back And then my only other thought that came to me that no one else decided to even mention was pay. Like, imagine
But
if
this,
New Zealand doubled his pay to coach a rebuild. Like, you can't sit here as an honest person and say, oh, yeah, you're going to do the same job, but get 2 times it. Like, none of those reasons came up. They're like, oh, it's such a good opportunity, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, what if they just offered him double? And then
yeah,
it would be closed door argument. You're still coaching national team. New Zealand, I think, has well, outside of the next one, but moving forward, pretty much a same or equal chance to make the World Cup as Canada do, trying to qualify out of their region. So to me, it kind of made sense. But once I just thought about pay, everyone's giving me, oh, hard part's done, players are better, this, and that. I'm like, yeah, but if your salary doubles, your salary doubles. It's just the name of the game.
yeah, and also, well, like that's the other thing though, is that it's kind of interesting because I saw something even today that was like, well, Bontis and Canada Soccer came out and went, no, he's under contract.
And
Like
that's
that's the
true
other
too.
part that I thought of was like, he signed on until 2026 anyway.
Yeah.
He signed a contract till then. So the other part of this, where he's like, "Oh, I've received other offers," and if he was
He
trying to
made
leverage
sure
this
to
for
say that.
pay, why didn't Canada Soccer just go, "Fuck you, you're under contract"? No,
Yeah.
you know what I
Right.
mean? Like that, like that's the other part of this where it's like we're even like, was it a leverage for pay? I don't see where the fucking leverage is,
Yeah. There
unless
must be something
there
there
there might be a clause in his contract that says, "Oh,
where he
if
can
if I
leave and
receive an offer of X amount, I
pay
can
the
terminate my
buyout.
contract," or
Right.
something like. I'm there has to be something like that, because that's the only way that he could leverage it. But that was the thing where it's like, oh, he's trying to leverage for more pay. It's like, yeah, but if he's under contract,
Yeah.
that,
And I know a little bit about the Canadian Soccer Federation, not saying I know a lot, but I assume the pay can't be amazing. Again, not to pocket watch, but it's not like our federation's having camps every other week. Like, I just saw the US men's national team in like a full-blown camp for like D team players, not even C team players.
yeah,
Like, it's not like money's by the millions in Canada soccer regardless. So let's just say he was to get an offer. I know there was rumors about this even before, like he had some championship offers or something like that, and other stuff going on to like coach pro ball. Um, we can't be naive as Canadian soccer people to think that he potentially can't leave. But I think it just took everybody out of left field to go to like a team much worse than you currently are. Like, what are they, 50 spots below us? I saw some person write out. So it's like you're literally taking a back seat. But anyway, it worked out.
yeah. It was out of left field, right? And I mean, even like so on like the flip side there, like there was if he does go,
Mm-hmm.
do you think he goes to a club team or do you think he sticks to a national team?
Ooh, good question. Ooh, I think you have to go. I think for him, if I'm him, again, as a we've seen the reverse happen in actually pro sports. So you normally see a lot of pro managers go to national team because it's a little bit less work. Like in their later years, they'll go to like national team, like Luis Enrique, for example, or the Dutch manager, I forget his name right now, but like they were pro coaches and
Louis
then
Van
they
Hall?
Louis Van Gaal, there you go. And they went to national team because it's literally less work. It's not day-to-day management. You're kind of monitoring guys' progress, but you kind of basically know if guys are fit, who you're going to take, and then you have them in for little windows, and you're not really implementing that many tactics because they are who they are. You can't really change stuff. So you've seen the reverse happen. Herdman's actually interesting because he started, well, not started. I don't know how far back in his history, but he's basically been known, or he got his acclaim coaching national teams. Like, he's the national team guru on the women's side and the men's side. So now for him to make the transition, I think for him, he makes it to pro. Ironically, that's different than what a lot of other like coaches in his respective field have done. But I think he makes the transition to pro just to see if he can have the same success. It's like I'm a big college football fan, but they always say like, "Oh, is this coach gonna make the jump to pro football?" and 9 times out of 10 they do, just to see if they can do it, because you can always come back. You're already proven at one level, might as well try to see if you can do it at another level. So I think he can always come back if he fails that national program, if he goes into the program and maybe doesn't succeed, or does, and then he goes down as a living legend somewhere, wherever he's at. But I think he would have to make his next move pro, and I wouldn't be surprised shortly after 2026 if he does so. He'll probably get a job easy if they can just win one game or draw one game in the World Cup at home. I see him going pro after this cycle for sure. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think I see him trying to make that step, because I think from the other side of it, it's like the professional growth point.
Yeah.
Like, can I go do it? I don't think he's cut out for it. If
Fair
I'm
enough.
being honest, I really don't. Like, I'm sorry, I've heard from the likes of Kaylin Kyle and Janine Becky say he's the most prepared World Cup, and he was one of the least prepared. He
Yeah.
faced two of the most prepared ones in his group in Morocco and Croatia, and they played a way, like their identity didn't change, their philosophy didn't change, but the way they played was completely different game to game.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that when you go and you say you go to a championship team, that's a
Yeah.
long fucking season, man. You have to play a lot of different ways. You can't play the same way the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, that's the side of it where the preparation and the tactical side, which I think the tactical side is his weakness.
Mhm.
He's such a good motivator. He's like, and he's, I mean, he's a public speaker as well, right? Like, he's really smart. He's a great motivator, and he can prepare well for plan A. But the tactical side is you have a plan B, C, D, and E as well.
Yeah.
If shit
And
hits the fan in some way, if you have an injury, if you pick up something. And I think that's his weak point.
yeah. And no one's perfect. If we're talking, no manager.
Every manager has a weakness. Everyone
Exactly.
does.
So no shots at Herdman at all. But to your point, I think you agree. And especially when you're a pro manager, that tactical adjustment, like, why do you think Pep Guardiola like runs the Prem? I saw something today like, oh, Man City buy everybody. If you actually look at the last like 4 transfer cycles, Man City hasn't bought jack shit, or Holland is a different guy. But they haven't spent abundance amounts of money like the Chelseas, the Liverpools, even the Arsenals to a degree. But
The
his
Uniteds.
tactics are
Oh yeah,
spot on. Not to say he's
part of his weakness. He overdoes it. He overdoes
he
the
overdoes
tactical
it.
side of it almost.
Exactly.
Like that's one of those things, right? Like, every manager's got a weakness, and like I think you're starting to see Klopp's resurgence of like, oh, he's running them into the ground. It's the same group running him into the ground like he did at Dortmund. It's almost a carbon copy, right? Like, every manager has a weakness, so it's not a shot at him. I just think he's more. I think the way he coaches and everything, I think it's built more for the national side of it.
Definitely.
Like you said, like, it's like, and again, the tactical thing, there is tactics that go along with it. Because again, I think when you see Croatia, where the patterns of play, there's so many different levels where guys are moving, and they know they're not receiving the ball yet. They're going to receive it 4 passes later, but their movement doesn't change. Whereas we're not quite, like, again, we're still at the beginning of our cycle, right? So there's still tons of growth. But yeah, that's kind of where I see it. And then, I mean, again, like, the other side of the Twitter conversation that I saw was people just vehemently going, the program is nothing without him. It's done. If he goes, we're screwed. And other people going, it's not that big of a deal if he goes. Like whereabouts do you fall in that conversation? Because Twitter's already polarizing enough, but all of a sudden now you're like, how is it that we're either completely fucked if John Herdman goes, or we're totally fine?
That's a good point. I think where we are is kind of in the middle in answer. I don't know. I feel like I want to pick a side, but so I know some of the guys on the team, obviously, and they've told me some stuff. And truthfully, they say like they wouldn't rather play for anybody else. Like, he apparently gets the most out of guys, knows how to rally a team, and kind of lets the players. He's a players coach, so he kind of lets the players like he vibes with them. He understands them. He understands like current culture and what's going on and things of that nature. So do I think we're completely screwed? No, but we just have to look at Morocco and see their run when you have a manager in there who players don't mess with, and how it can be damaging. Like Morocco, literally speaking, I wouldn't say they limped into the World Cup, but you saw the run that they had. And I think if they had the previous manager who like hated Ziyech and those guys and wasn't calling him into camp, I don't think they make that same run. So you just wonder if another manager comes in, like I think, for example, Herdman's been very flexible with Fonzie. Like, You want to play left wing? Go ahead. You want to play left back? Go ahead. You want to play one game and go back to Germany because we don't want to get on FC Bayern's nerves? Like, go ahead. He's been a very he's a player's coach at the end of the day. If the next guy comes in here and is not like that or can't galvanize a group, and it's going to be very, very hard to motivate this group when they already know they're going to the World Cup. So like some guys might not want to come into certain cycles because they know it's already certain that they're going to be playing. Some guys are, it's just going to, this cycle, I think, ironically, I think this cycle, even though we qualified, and it's crazy to say, and who knows, this might be a reel or something on the internet in the next little bit, but I think the next cycle is harder to coach than this cycle. Even though we're automatically qualified, I think this cycle is actually harder to coach, just simply for the fact that you got to motivate these guys for the next 4 years, even though they are automatically going. And you're going to have to cut bait with a lot of guys to bring in younger guys who we don't even know yet, who are like going to burst on the scene and kind of ruin the team chemistry that everyone loved going into this last World Cup. So I think this one's actually harder to manage. So if he were to leave, to answer your question, I think it could be detrimental. I think he is the right man for the job for this next group. But he's really going to have to, motivate that group for another 4 years for sure.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that, because at the same time, if he does go, I don't think, it sucks. It's tough. Like, I don't think, like, even from a standpoint of going like, oh, like, could they move on? Well, right now, no. There's no one really available that wouldn't be a lateral or a backwards move.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like, again, it's different if it's like, oh wait, Carlo Ancelotti wants to come in.
Yeah.
He lives in West Van. Like, okay, all right, that's a tough one to kind of deal with. But as far as the motivation is concerned, I think the motivation's kind of there. Like, you've got Copa America guaranteed, so and you have to get results. Like, the reality is, I think leading up to the World Cup, actually, they've kind of got the motivation already set, where you've got Copa America that you've qualified for. Now we found that out now that the US, Mexico, and Canada are automatically in.
Correct.
So we did a podcast, I think, dropping a couple of days ago that said, they got it because originally it was you're supposed to qualify through CONCACAF Nations League. So again, CONCACAF Nations League now doesn't mean shit. So that's one where you can bring in other guys. But Copa America, Gold Cup, it's expected that they get to the final, minimum final. Like, now I think, like, the part of the motivation isn't even motivation anymore, it's expectation.
Yeah, that's true.
And then going to the World Cup, they have to win a game. That's all. Like, they have to. It doesn't matter who they draw. They have to. It's an expanded pool. It's weaker now. Like, it's a have to. Like, I think that's the part. And I think maybe that's, I totally see where you're coming from, where it's like, no, like, the motivation side isn't necessarily there because everything's automatic. They don't have to qualify for anything. But the weight of expectation is where all of a sudden where I'm like, okay, if they can get a manager that's more football savvy, and the tactical side, because the other problem is if they go through the same 4 years doing the same thing, and the patterns don't necessarily progress to the levels of other nations, you're now like, oh no, that's another 4-year cycle that we just lost. Like, we want to see growth in this cycle. Like, they need to grow the core players need to grow as a group, and we need to see that progression in different things. So that's where it's like, you're like you said, you're on the fence. You're like, well, he's a great motivator and it's great for the group. They need someone like that.
Yeah.
But they need someone on the other side to get them going and to grow and for them all to develop, right? Like, it's they're in that weird phase right now for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, it's interesting. It's going to be interesting, even player commitment these next 3 to 4 years. I can see a lot of guys like pulling the who was the guy from Rangers that we
Scott Arfield
today? Scott Arfield, and just like he was like, I'm not flying from Scotland to Florida to play whatever it is at
Cuba
Academy.
Well, I think the difference though now is, like, if you've got Copa America coming up and like CONCACAF Nations League again, now that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Big deal. But these other ones, like, they're gonna start to get better friendlies though. Like, I kind of understand it. Like, again, like Scott Arfield during that, it was during COVID. He's trying to keep his club career going.
Yeah. But like,
And
so now
you're going to
Fonz,
go there and play Curacao. You're going to
correct.
fly to Miami to play the Curacao
That's what
when you
I'm
could roll out a
saying though.
CPL team that could beat them.
But okay, if I'm Fonzie, let's just say hypothetically speaking, they just got Wow Cancelo, and we just saw he literally took a spot in his first game. But well, Fonzie did score, so shout out to him.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that in a little bit. But if I'm Fonzie competing for Cancelo for minutes, and I'm gonna go fly even Copa America, like yes, it is something new and it's different. And yeah, fuck, you get to play Brazil, Argentina, but you're probably not getting those games until the later rounds anyway. So are you gonna go and play, let's just say he's in a battle at Bayern and he's trying to make his next big move. His next move is his prime move. So that's the move that you normally take as a young player to go to Barcelona, Real Madrid. That's the pyramid of football. It's just how it is. I'm sorry if I offended anybody, but that's basically Fonzie's next move. He's in that stage of his career. Are you risking Canada Soccer Copa America football for like that? Jonathan David's kind of been on that next move for a little bit, been trying to get out of Leo for the last couple of transfer windows now. Is he risking coming back? Even some of like the older guys in the MLS. It's interesting. I think those guys you have nothing to worry about, but just the European guys and their careers, I don't know if they fully go like every single time.
Those two are so young though that they will. They're not like, again, Fonzie, we're talking about. I think part of it right now is with Bayern, they're looking at it. Part of it was the condensed schedule because of COVID.
Yeah.
Right. Like there haven't really been a genuine international break for a while now. It's been a while. Again, Copa America is during the off season.
Yeah.
It's during the Euros. So what Bayern, João Cancelo is playing at the Euros for Portugal.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's that side of it. So if like those international tournaments, like the tournaments themselves, I get, and even the friendlies, like I understand, but I do also understand their point of being like, he doesn't need to play every game, guys. Yeah. Like, he doesn't, like, you know, when you get to that level and stuff, like you do start to see like, again, do you think Tottenham are thrilled that Harry Kane rolls out every week for England, every single game against the Latvias? Do you think they really want that to happen?
For sure.
You know, like it's for a lot of those. There's every single team is like that, and he's not even close to his prime. He's only what, 22?
Yeah, 22.
His prime's 27 to 32 realistically. Like that's your prime. That's when you are like your body is finely tuned now. You're smart enough, you're old enough, you're wise enough to know exactly what you need to get out of things. Like
for sure.
Like that's I think he's so far away from that, and he's already like $100 million asset. Like
yeah. No, that's a good point. You raised some good points. And with more guys going to Europe, it's just interesting. I'll be interested to see. I guess that just includes, like I said, America just hosted like a C team camp. So you just have to expand the player pool. And
big time.
There might not be wins all the time, but you're expanding the pool.
Well, I think the other thing that's super important, the other part of it that is incredibly important for them to come back right now and win is they need to get in, what is it, the top 50 FIFA rankings so that it's easier to get permits to go play overseas. So that's the other thing. Like they have to get there. If they don't, the younger kids are absolutely fucked because it's so much harder now to get transferred over into sign contracts.
So I was wondering that, and I don't know why it makes it easier, but everyone started hooping and hollering about when that happened. But to my understanding, once you're 18, if there's a will, there's a way. No, like
no, because you still need. So the other side of that is you need a part of it. Even when you turn 18, you have to legally be able to work in the other country.
Correct.
So like that's a big thing. You need to be able to. You have to apply and be able to be given a visa. So that's one thing.
Okay.
Right. And so that's number one. If you can't apply based on, you know, if Canada can't get a visa somewhere, the Canadian government, you can't get a visa there, you can't go.
But most countries can get.
Most countries now,
like,
and through
sport. In Canada. Just to say.
Oh, like our passport works for like it's like
even if I wasn't a soccer player, like if I wanted to go work for a tech company in England, if I apply through the right channels, I should be able to get a visa.
So the difference there is like, but the UK government might not like even that though, the UK government might not do it unless that company is the one heading it. Like, no, we want him to come in. He's going through all the proper channels. Like,
Fair enough.
you need the other side of it. So the difference is you can't now sit here and be like, I want to rock up to Spain and go on trial without a visa. I'm just going to travel there and then I can sort it out then. It's not
Got
going to
it.
work. You're not going to be able to do it beforehand and then rock up and go on trial. Like, you need that club now to come after you almost. You know what I mean?
Makes
And
sense.
so I think the way it works is, and I'll do some more research into it to be sure, but I think is that if you're of a certain level within the FIFA World Rankings,
Mhm.
there's a way to expedite it, and it's a more seamless prospect to be
I
able to do that, so that younger kids now, when you are, it's now like the sport visa you're able to apply for is easier to obtain
Makes
for
sense.
more countries.
Got it.
So again, I think part of it is making sure that the infrastructure is there from the actual country,
Mhm.
so that it's not just, oh, well, open borders, because then you're going to have clubs plucking players from all over the world,
Makes sense.
right?
Got
So
it.
it's a way to kind of maintain that. But yeah, so like that's a huge thing. They need to get into that, because as it stands, like it's already difficult enough for Canadians to get overseas,
Yeah,
because you do need a legal guardian until you're 18.
correct.
So it's not like you can just roll up at 16 and be like, yeah, I want to sign somewhere. I don't have a legal guardian. You know, like it's already difficult enough. So that would be the other side of that, is making sure that they can, uh, it's as easy as possible for them to be able to do it.
No.
Because even like, I think the other side of it is they need so many caps with the national team too.
Yeah, like I said,
Because Willian had an issue with that when he was trying to get to Chelsea. Like, that was done at the absolute last, like the 11th hour.
that's what I just want to know. I got to look into more into the rule more. I'm actually looking at it right now, see if I can find anything, but nothing's really coming up. But it just doesn't make sense to me why they're struggling so much for this fucking literally this ranking, and we live in Canada. But like you said, because I know it was a massive deal when we did get into the top 50 and everyone was just like jumping, going crazy. So yeah, right now we're 53. So shit, we got some work to do.
Yeah. So hopefully they can, sort that out, and then they'll hop up. And again, like, getting better friendlies is only going to help,
Yeah.
right? Like, it doesn't really matter. Oh, wow, they lost to Argentina. Who gives a shit? Are you
Yeah.
kidding me? That's worth more than beating the Curacao.
Yeah. I'm looking at this ranking right now. I don't know how Burkina Faso is ahead of us. They're 50.
Honestly, I
Crazy.
feel like part of that though, Burkina Faso, I think like that's part of the African, like the way they qualify,
Yeah.
right?
Shit.
Like, they're like, look at the teams they're playing, man. Like, it's hard as hell to qualify out of Africa. I think they won games and they got to a. I think they lost in the last stage to
That's
qualify or
crazy.
something like that.
It's
Like,
crazy these teams. When you actually look at it, like some of these teams that are ahead are actually, it's actually insane.
yeah,
Like Mali is 45 in the world. How? Anyway, to each their own.
yeah,
Anyway, crazy, crazy.
yeah. And moving on to the women's side of it, Bev Priestman just announced the pre-tournament camp for the She Believes Cup.
Yeah. Shout out to Bev, man. She's killing it over there with the Canadian women's national team. I'm actually a massive fan of Bev Priestman. Never met her personally, but just how she's kind of coming with this group and gotten the best out of the group. I think it's very understated. Her mentality's been really cool too. She's transitioning the group very well, potentially out of the Christine Sinclair era. Again, she's killing it. Obviously the gold medal at the Olympics was massive, but like even some of the young players, I've been looking at her rosters, and because I know a lot of the women's game, I pay a lot of attention even to like women's college soccer, NWSL, and even the stuff going on in Europe and stuff, and what she's been able to do in terms of like bringing in young and old, experience, not experience, using different windows to experiment with different players is very impressive. So yeah, shout out to Bev Priestman. I think they're going to do well at this She Believes Cup. I don't know if they'll win the whole thing. It's a pretty talented field, but to be fair, we got a good young group of Canadians coming in. I've seen a couple of them, especially at the youth at the NDC Ontario and things of that nature. And she's calling in NDC Ontario, PEF in Quebec, and Whitecaps, and she's calling in a lot of those players too, which is cool. So yeah, I like what Bev's doing. She's definitely doing the right things.
Yeah, no, and I like what you said there, where she's using a lot of the different windows to transition players, right? Like maybe leave some of the senior players out and calls up some of the girls from college, or whether it's NDC or because I think Amanda Allen got called in,
Yeah,
Simia Woju
Samir Uju for
she got
sure.
called in, like you're starting to see that, and that's one of the interesting things. Like again, going forward, is that going to happen on the other side? Because that's such a smart way to do it. Like you need to test these players and trying to figure that out. And so calling them into these pre-camps and all these different things to test them against other national teams has been brilliant so far.
Yeah. Yeah, she's done well. Like Jade Rose, for example, when she put like Marta in her pocket, like, and that girl goes to Harvard. Like she probably is taking a final in a couple of months, which is insane. And she's playing at the biggest stage in the women's game. And yeah, it'll be interesting. Like it's so weird. It's almost like, and sorry to bring the men back into this conversation, but I feel like the women do a better job of kind of saying, hey, if you're close, we're going to call you. Like Amanda Allen, I'll tell you right now, I've seen her play plenty of times. Is she going to start for Canada currently? Or is she going to play a massive role in this next window? Probably not. But the fact that she has experience is another girl I know that will be a pretty prominent fixture in our women's national team fairly soon, Olivia Smith. She already has caps, and she's currently at Penn State at like 16, 17 years old. Obviously, I think for the last 2 years, Herdman's kind of been in a tough one because every single camp is qualifying. So you can't really bring in and experiment too much. But it would be cool to see some young guys like Gabrielle Pellegrino, who's currently at Frankfurt, or Sean Costa, who's currently in Germany as well. Like some of the young U17 kids, even the college kids. Like everyone in my circle knew Alistair Johnson was that guy at Wake Forest and at Vaughan. Like he didn't get his calls till he started doing really well at Nashville, but like getting him a little sniff here and there and just kind of getting guys acclimated, or at least a taste of the level, I think would be cool. Again, it's two completely different sports, but yeah, I think this She Believes will be good. Who's exactly in the draw again for them for She
So they
Believes?
got the US, Brazil, and Japan. So not an easy draw at all.
Yeah, honestly,
That's a tough one. But
I
again,
said I
it's
hope
kind of
they
what you
win.
want. It's kind of what you want, though.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
want something tough going into the World Cup next year. Like
you
you
need
need
that.
something hard.
You need to prep for that because that's what they're going to face in their knockout rounds. They should qualify. They should get past their group. Sorry,
Yeah.
in the World Cup, and then when you get to the knockout rounds, if you come second in your group, which they very well could, first would always be great. But you want to qualify, and the qualifying is only 2 spots. So let's just say they come top 2. You're facing in that next round Japan, Germany, USA. Like
The
that's
Netherlands,
pretty much a
Sweden,
given.
like
Exactly.
the
Spain, like
England,
that's pretty
like
much a
they're
given. So
all
you want those games. So it's good for them. I've seen the Japanese play and they're just ridiculous. And I know USA is going through a little bit of a transition as well. So we'll see what happens, but that'll be some good games. I'm definitely going to tune in.
oh, for sure. Yeah, it's going to be, they're coming up later this month, which is nice. There's not too much, I guess, there would be competition at the time,
Yeah,
because I'm guessing, I do get that, Premier League's on every third day at this point, but
for
just
sure.
time of day, it's a good time for them to play and everything. And hopefully a lot of people tune in. I mean, that would be the ideal thing, right? Is, the more people tune in, the more people watch, they can kind of see what the level's like. And women's football is going through a transitionary period right now where there is a bigger emphasis on footballing and patterns of play. I think when
Definitely.
we grew up, it was a lot more athletic, or the US just dominated because they were the most athletic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
it's transitioned away from that quite significantly.
unfortunately for us, because we were one of those countries that relied on athleticism and how we got a lot of our results. So unfortunately for Canada, that's what I mean by us. The other parts of the world are slowly catching up, and maybe not slowly, are catching up quickly. Like you just see Spain and and the players they're producing, as of recent, Germany, Japan, like a lot of these teams that, like, I call it appreciate the ball, or like are just wizards with ball mastery are starting to they're starting to develop women players just at that level, and they're taking it seriously. You see the women's league in England like just taking off, and in Spain as well. Mexico, like we're not the giants like we used to be, and top three finishes in the Olympics and potentially going really far in the World Cup are unfortunately probably not going to be in our horizons very, very soon. But with that being said, if you keep supporting the game, like you said, keep encouraging girls to play footy, keep providing different pathways. Shout out to Diane Matheson and Christine Sinclair about trying to get the women's league off in 2025. Like all these things are going to help us get back to where we are, but it's just not going to be the same swan song like it was these last little bit. We really got to appreciate that Olympics and just like the men's game, it's just not going to happen as routinely. So I don't mean to offend anyone by that, but what I just mean is like, if you look at the World Cup, every given year, there's a new Final Four. Like that's what it's going to be in the women's. Like every given year, there's going to be a Final Four. There's going to be a new champion. Like there's not going to be as many repeats and the same teams doing it over and over. Like Germany didn't get out of their group in the last World Cup, and they're considered a powerhouse on the men's side. So that's kind of what I mean by that last statement, is that it's not going to be as routine because there's just more people coming into the mix.
Oh, 100%. And I think like the part here, which again, like you said, like getting the Canadian League off the ground is going to be a huge help.
Yeah.
But again, ideally, you're going, we want to sell them to the Man Uniteds and the Arsenals, because again, like and this is kind of I think this is a bit of the fallacy where we look at, oh, how have these other countries surpassed this so quickly?
Yeah.
And you're like, the $5 billion team is the one investing. It's not the English FA. It's
Correct.
Man Uniteds and the Arsenals and the Liverpools and the Cities, who are like, you just listed off, every single one of them is valued at over $5 billion.
Yeah.
PSG basically just feed the French national team. That's what it is. Lyon, Marseille, and PSG. Like,
correct.
You've got these entities that have more. Some of them probably have better liquidity than the Canadian government.
Yeah. No, it's
and
ridiculous.
You're like, how are you supposed to? Again, we only have 38 million people here.
Correct. It's not the same. It's not
the same. And so the one thing we can do is to produce more players, to send them in those environments.
Yeah, so they can develop there. Exactly.
Yeah. So that would be the ideal thing there. Obviously, I think, like you said, and what you said there, I really liked where you're talking about the growth and the fact that we're not going to have the same teams repeating all the time. It's going to be 4 different. Yeah, some teams might consistently get to semifinals, and
for sure,
we've seen
the US, same thing. Like,
100%. Oh yeah, big time.
That run of like what, 3 World Cups or something like that, and all those, that is not happening in 4 years. I guarantee in the next 10 years they don't win 2. So the next 3 World Cups, I guarantee they don't win 2. Mark it down right now. I promise you they won't win 2 World Cups in the next 3 World. They won't win 2 out of the 3. They'll win 1 potentially, but I don't think they win 2. It's so hard now.
I agree. I think the window for teams to win is dwindling as well. Like even look at like the French national team. You're like, oh my God, they almost repeated for the men.
Yeah.
But there's no guarantee they do that in 4 years. There's none.
Sure.
Like you have no idea what's going to come up in 4 years. What other country might blow up, or oh my God, they picked up injuries at the wrong time. Like you're just a couple injuries away from your whole World Cup going to shit.
I agree.
So totally agree with you there. And then look, going back to the Canadian Premier League here a little bit. The Canadian Championship draw came out.
Yep, very cool. Very excited about that. I'm actually going to pull it up as we speak. But just shout out to, again, everyone in Canada Soccer for including all parts of League One Canada, even League One BC in its first year.
Fuck. Holy shit.
That was massive, just because I know how much it means to these clubs and to these organizations. We were just on the call with someone that was part of a League One BC team, or the league, and it just means a lot. It gives them a pathway. It's like the Open Cup. So I played in the Open Cup when I was in college.
Hunt? Yeah, so did I.
It goes all the way down. Yeah, you did as well. So it goes all the way down to the youth level. And long story, like I was playing for an MPSL team called FC Buffalo, and we had this random game against another MPSL team which we lost, so we didn't go very far. But it was just that level of like when our owner came in the dressing room, it was like, this one's a big one. Because if we win this one and we win the next one, we're gonna face Indy 11. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? Like, that's a USL championship team. Like, how the hell are we facing Indy 11? And he was like, yeah, like this is the Open Cup. Like anyone can technically win it. And then eventually everyone bows out and loses. But it's so cool to see that like Vaughan is gonna play CF Montreal. Like
That's wicked.
that is wild to me.
That
That
is
is wild to me. Like off the jump, they're gonna get absolutely destroyed, which we can get into each matchup if we want to. But
that one is that
that's
one's one of the coolest ones. That one is
very
honestly the coolest one for me.
yeah.
Is that they're honest, like they get to go play CF Montreal. Like what a fucking surreal experience for all those guys. No, and like you said, like I remember when we played the first year I got to play in the Open Cup.
Yeah.
It was like the local men's team from LA. They had to fly up to Seattle to come play.
Oh, really?
Because they won their game. They won. They like we had a bye in the first round.
Yeah.
And they won, so they had to come up and play us. And it went to extra time. And it went to extra time, and our coach was sitting there going, "You motherfuckers! Like you have no idea how bad it's going to be if we lose this." And we ended up scoring 2 goals in extra time and stuff. But it was like you felt the pressure. You're like, we have to win this. Like we can't lose. Like we were way younger than they were. Like
yeah. Oh, it happens every year.
But it was like, no, you got to win. So we did that one, and we ended up playing. I think one year we got to play a USL team. I can't remember which year it was, but I think we got to play Sacramento one year, and it was like this wicked experience. We're like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome.
Like, yeah, no, it happens every single year. Like Open Cup runs. I'm actually trying to Google some right now.
But I would hope that we could get to that point. I think the only thing that we struggle with here is the fact of how fractured every single men's league is, like the amateur side of it.
Yeah.
I think that's the only problem with it. Like, again, like the only one that seems to kind of run and it's like, oh, this works out is the one I play in the VMSL. Because our league ends at the end of February. So if you do like whoever wins the league qualifies rather than winning the provincial cup, like, well, you're there. Like every other league would have to be from previous years and all that kind of stuff, which would be difficult. But again, like you said, all that stuff's regionalized though.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't really have to fly potentially until another time, but it would be cool to see it eventually get to that one day. But there's a lot of other building that needs to go in before they get to that. So
even if you regionalize it and I guess keep it in a certain way. So for example, like you just talked about the West Coast, so VMSL, for example, but even if you were to like regionalize it and the winner like faces Vaughan or something along like the winner of League One BC will then face this team to see who wins that. And then they would get that spot instead of maybe the amateur leagues getting an automatic bid. So then you just get the amateur bid. But then I could also see on the reverse side, why the hell would League One want to do that? Like potentially give up their bid to a men's league team, which is completely because they're trying to show that they're a better standard. So there's got to be a way.
I think what you could do is it's not like giving up a bid. It would be like a first round. Like this is round 1 where you have say, okay, whoever the best amateur men's team in BC, you put League One, and then you take the best amateur team in Alberta, and League One Alberta sounds like it's coming up. You put those 4 in a pot and you pull. That's round 1 for that region. You have a central one and you have an east one. Right. So you have the Vaughans and the Lavals, but then you have who's the best men's team in the PLSQ, who's the best, another one for, I can't remember what the Ontario men's league is, but like you've got that one, right? Like who wins that? Well, they're all in a pot. You get pulled. The Atlantic has theirs, and then all the CPL teams get a bye, and the MLS teams get a bye. So you'd have to grow it to a specific number to make it work.
For sure.
But they would all get a bye because I still don't love the fact that like how many rounds now did the Whitecaps and TFC miss?
Yeah, I know.
Like
well,
it's
now
still
I'm actually looking. I got the graphic up. Like this year is actually not that bad. So they just get the winners get a bye to the quarters, and then everyone who wins their next game is in the quarters. But still.
So TFC and Vancouver are automatically in the quarters, right?
Yeah. So I'm looking.
Okay, that's not terrible. It's when
it's
they were
automatically
before
it was bad. Like they were automatically
what the hell?
Exactly.
That's stupid.
Now they're in the quarters. So I'll read you the matchups here. Give me your winners. Let's try to build out a little bracket. Match ones, TSS Rovers, Valor.
I want
Ooh,
TSS to win
okay.
because, well, my brother's
Your
playing in
brother
that
plays
one.
for
My
TSS.
brother's
Yeah, yeah.
gonna, yeah, he's decided to go play, which is
Nice.
nice. We'll see. Well, honestly, I'll see what that squad even looks like because I know some of them who were in that are on trial with Vancouver FC and everything.
Okay.
But so we'll see what that squad eventually looks like. I want to say them.
Yeah. You
I
can say
want
them. Go
to.
ahead.
I just I don't even know what Valor's like. Valor haven't come up with many of their signings yet either. Like I think that's part of the problem right now with even doing this
Yeah.
is like you don't even know what even CPL teams look like right now. Some of them,
Correct.
like that's part of the hard part, right? Like what they haven't even
Who they
announced
gonna
rosters.
be?
I think Vancouver FC have like 6 or 7 guys so far on their whole roster.
Yeah.
How
Sean
the
Reyes not playing for Valor, and obviously he was a big part for them last year.
yeah.
I still say Valor just based off the pro guys, but I didn't watch a lot of League One BC last year. Obviously, I caught some stuff when I could, heard from you and your brother playing in the league. So I maybe am underselling TSS, but
I'm gonna say Valor because I don't
yeah,
think TSS have an out and out bona fide striker at that level.
fair enough.
But then again, I don't know if Valor do either.
Okay.
So
No, yeah, yeah. That's
like
a that's a
that's
fair
the other
point.
side of
They
it.
lost Moses Dyer too. I know he went USL championship. So
Brett Levis left.
yeah, shit. Who do that? Yeah, they're in a
I
yeah.
know I think the interesting there is like, well, Jordan Haynes is there, Marcello Polisi's there.
Yeah.
So they
They
both
lost
played for
Rocco Vermette.
TSS in PDL too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. That will
So
actually be
that could be a good
that
game.
could be an upset.
Yeah.
That could be an upset. Sorry to all my Valor FC fans, but that could be an upset. Guarantee. All right, next one, Pacific Cavalry. I feel like this was last year's matchup, correct me if I'm wrong, or
I
they've
think they
seen
played
each
at
other
one
in this
point.
competition before.
Yeah.
Um I'm going Cavalry just based on who I know there.
I'm gonna take Calvary because I think they're gonna have a bounce back because they didn't have a great year last year.
Yeah, that's fair. I've seen Cavalry's international signings. They're pretty good. And just how they play, I think Pacific actually, even though they're a good group, but losing what's his name is going to be massive.
Well,
Like
losing Bustos, he's gone.
losing
But
Bustos is
the
going to
guy
be massive.
they lost they lost Diaz. He led
Yeah,
they lost him halfway through the year and he still led the league in
the
goals.
Golden Boot. Yeah, they don't have like 2/3 of their attack. I know the Irving's gone.
Cali,
Like
yeah.
they lost a good amount. It's going to be interesting to see Pacific this year. I'm not super high. Obviously, we know people in that organization as well. So um wish them all the best. And then that Vancouver Pacific thing, it's going to be weird. Like they might lose a couple guys when it's all said and done with the similar ownership group. Like you don't know what other changes are going to be made there. But yeah, I think I'll go Cavalry there just based on stability, to be fair.
I'm taking Calvary as well.
Yeah. All right. Match 3, we got York, Vancouver.
I'm taking York.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Just based on who Vancouver signed, and trust me, if anyone's listening, I mean no offense, but I think Vancouver could potentially lose to all 3 League One Canada teams if they were going to draw them, but they didn't. They drew York, and I think York will handle them. But I don't know how strong Vancouver FC is going to be, and that's kind of expected for a first-year pro team. FC Edmonton was the same way. I think if they drew a League One Canada team last year, they were potentially up for the upset. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I got York pretty easy there.
Yeah, York 100%. I think again, you're the team coming in during year 5. Like every other team's kind of established. I think the main goal for Vancouver FC this year is to establish some sort of a philosophy.
Definitely.
That's it.
Definitely. And then Forge FC Laval. So, Adam, obviously you're the West Coast guy, but this FC Laval team is legit. I was so upset that they drew Forge out of all teams because they have no shot now. But I'm telling you, if they drew any other CPL team that wasn't like 3 or 4-time champs, however many Forge have now, I think they legitimately would have had a chance to beat someone. This team's legit. they kicked the shit out of a lot of PLSQ teams that we know pretty routinely now. Saint Laurent was a good group out of the PLSQ. I live in Montreal right now. For people who don't know, that's why I've seen so many of the games. CF Montreal's U23s were in that group. Was in the PLSQ this year, and they finished 5th. So the PLSQ is nothing to slouch about. This FC Laval team is for real. Like, I mean, for real. And they will lose to Forge. But I'm telling you, the other CPL teams got lucky because there might have been riots in the streets if they drew anybody else. But they're a good group, but they will lose to Forge.
Yeah. You don't think they have a shot at all?
No shot. Forge for me, Bobby, that whole organization they're a cut above. But
Oh, they are. I mean, I would take Forge as well. I'm just thinking back to when Forge drew Montreal and took them to Pens.
yeah.
Like, it's a one-off game, man. Like,
it is a one-off game. I don't think they do it. I don't think they do it. I think, actually, not leaking anything here, but a couple of their players will be signed by the time the start of the season starts. So that group that helped them get there, I think they'll be a little bit decimated. But geez, that's a team. That FC Laval team is a group for sure. Halifax Wanderers Atletico. This is actually a really good game. I'll let you go first here, but
I'm gonna take Atletico.
Okay.
Just because I think they've got more stability, obviously, with ownership and a couple billion in the bank through Atletico. Losing Baloo is obviously a big loss for them, considering what he did last year. But again, Halifax have lost players and haven't really replaced them yet.
Yeah.
So you're still looking at like a half squad with them right now. You're waiting for the other guys to fully come through and sign. But yeah, so I mean, I'm guessing if you're Halifax, you're hoping that Mo takes a step this year. He didn't play a ton last year. Omar.
Yeah.
Like, you're hoping he steps up. Aiden Daniels, again, hopefully he takes another step this year. Like, you're kind of relying on those guys to do more almost. But yeah, so I would stick with Atletico because I think they're starting to build something.
Yeah. Off the top of my head, I think I would agree. This game's actually really interesting. So I read something that it's actually being played at a neutral site, which is really cool. Both stadiums.
I saw that tweet. Oh my God, I was dying.
Ready. Well, I can understand Halifax, but couldn't they just open up the TD one because it's turf? I don't know. That seemed a little bit weird to me, but anyway, it's on a neutral site, which is interesting. Maybe they'll play it in Quebec City. That would be funny. I think that's kind of the halfway point, or at least in the middle for both of them. So yeah, that for one is fairly interesting. Two, in terms of personnel, yeah, Halifax is obviously, everyone knows I'm, or for those of you who know me, I'm pretty close with Patrice Geyser. He's the head coach of Halifax, so we always talk shop, and he talks about like just being a new professional head coach. And like you said, Mo Omar I've literally heard this from the organization that they're expecting him to take a massive leap. First year out of Notre Dame last year, had a pretty good start to his year last year, but he is the middle anchor for that group. So it'll be interesting to see. Both of them kind of got young players. Atletico Ottawa, I thought, did a sneaky, very good job of some USL transfer business, getting that Quebec-based center back, Carl Lumet, I think his name is. He's good from India. Like, a lot of people are sleeping on that signing, but he's going to come in and basically start immediately. But again, on the back end, they also lost Brian Wright, who was like a starter, relief striker for them now at York. So that's going to be a big loss. Balu, obviously, big loss. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting. But I think I take Atletico just based on, like you said, the upfront prowess. I think they do still have enough in Malcolm Shaw and other guys there, and just being there before. If Ali Bassett comes back and those guys, like, I know they're on loan right now.
I think they are back. I think Kwame was saying that. I think they are back now.
If they're back, then yeah, I would think I would just have to pick Atletico off experience. But I do think Patrice is going to get that group rolling. I think it's just too early. April, that means it's probably going to be their 5th or 6th game as a group. It'll be tough to win that against Atletico, especially when they're not at home. So yeah, I think I'll go Atletico too. And then CF Montreal, Vaughn. Who are you thinking?
I gotta take CF Montreal.
Yeah.
You have to. Like, if Vaughn can upset them, oh my God. But again, now Vaughn have lost a couple of their guys to help them get there, right? Pat's taken them to Halifax. So,
Yeah.
and again, the other thing with them, they're completely out of season.
Yeah.
Vaughn, like,
Yeah. They
like
currently
I don't
train,
know,
I think, twice a week at Canlan or something like that out in
and it's not the
Toronto,
same, man. It's
Ontario.
just not the same.
No, it's
It's not the
not.
same, and that's it's an amazing but horrendous draw.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
It's actually the Kamal Miller Bowl. So shout out to Kamal. I'm a big Eagles fan, so we got the Andy Reid Bowl coming up because he played for both, coached both teams in the
yeah,
Super Bowl. But yeah, this is the Kamal Miller Bowl. Started his youth career at Vaughan, now playing professionally for CF Montreal. Alistair clearly wanted no part of this, so he could have been another one
you
that
didn't
would
want
have
the smoke. That's what it was. He had to get out.
exactly. Alistair ran off to Celtic. He was scared of Vaughan in at Saputo Stadium. But yeah, this is gonna be a good game. I'm definitely gonna be there. Let me just check the dates.
Is it at Saputo?
It has to be. I don't think
I
Vaughan even
I
has a
would
facility.
I would love it if it was at Vaughn. That would be
Yeah,
so much better, man. Like that would be
that would have been
the ultimate.
yeah, I think it is yeah, or it's between the 18th and the 20th. Uh yeah, I think it has to be a CF Montreal. I'm pretty sure it does. But anyway, I'm going with CF Montreal, pretty easy victory. They're training now. I think Vaughn guys are like, yeah, no, there's no chance that they win. If they do, oh my goodness, but I don't think so. All right, so let's go quick. I know we spent some time here, but you picked Valor, Cavalry. Who wins between them?
Cavalry,
Okay. Other quarterfinal, York, Whitecaps. Rematch of last year.
Whitecaps,
All right. Forge, Atletico. CPL finals matchup.
Forge.
All right. CF Montreal, TFC.
Oh,
That's crazy that they got
yeah.
matched that early.
I mean, there's automatically two CPL teams in the semifinals, which is great as well.
Yeah.
Um, oh, TFC or CF Montreal? I'm gonna take TFC in that one.
I think so too. I think
I
this, if you'd asked me last year, I would have taken CF, but this year I'm taking TFC.
yeah.
All right, we'll go. You had Cavalry versus Whitecaps. Rematch
Another
2019.
2019, that was the first year. Um,
Yeah, it's a rematch. One of those years.
I would take it's a one-off game too, right? It's not two legs.
Yeah,
I think I gotta take the Whitecaps.
yeah, I think so too. TFC Forge.
I'd really love it if Forge did, but I think TFC.
Yeah, they played already. All right, so you got Whitecaps, TFC. Who's your winner?
TFC.
TFC. TFC take it home. Ironically, I think we're the same. I don't think I'm changing. I think we pretty much are in agreement everywhere. So yeah, our brackets are basically aligned.
There we go.
We'll
I
see.
know
We'll see if it
I would
comes
love
true.
it if like TSS. I would love honestly if Laval, Vaughn, or TSS can cause an upset, it would be amazing. And if one of them can upset an MLS and a CPL team can upset an MLS team, like
Yeah,
I think that would all of a sudden raise the profile just of the tournament itself.
definitely.
You know
I
what I
think
mean?
when CPL, so I've been watching Can Champ for a while. When CPL first started, when they first got involved, like those games were close. I remember watching AS Blandville versus York, and it was literally splitting hairs. Like it was at Blandville. York came in, and it was like a 1-0 game. I think York scored off like an own goal. Like it was very close. I think the CPL has now taken steps in there. It's just more established. They're going into year 5. Like you've weeded out the talent. You've taken the best players from those amateur leagues, and you're starting to slowly but surely separate yourselves.
Yeah.
But with that being said, when we did get to those, like the semifinals, the Forages versus TFCs and the Cavalry versus Whitecaps, those are real conversations now. And I think before they weren't. Like that gap has slowly, but even though the amateur gap has widened, the pro gap is slowly closing. Like those are one-offs now. Like it could go either way for sure.
Yeah, and I think like the nice thing though is that year one you had Calvary who upset the Whitecaps over 2 legs, and it
Correct.
was like holy
And
shit. It
that
was,
gap was supposed to be bigger.
and
Correct.
then the year after you had Pacific who upset the Whitecaps, and you were like,
Yes.
oh my god, like
Yeah.
it became like a running joke, like oh what, you know,
What team's gonna go next? Correct.
or just going
Or
who are the
Whitecaps.
Whitecaps losing to this time,
And
right?
then they
Like,
won it.
and then they won it the next year, right? Like that's the whole thing. Like,
Like,
oh,
forget
well,
all
they
this.
got York. York are the next ones to knock them off, kind of thing. But it just created this interest and this intrigue around the tournament. So with it expanding this year, and with those teams not being right in the semifinal, obviously, I would hope there's something this year. So, you know, I mean, the storylines that we just came up with, we just went, eh, no,
Yeah.
no League One teams winning. CPL teams aren't being
I
the
know.
MLS team. So I would hope that somewhere we're wrong.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what you pray
Really
for.
hope
Like,
somewhere we're wrong. Like hopefully, I mean, oh my god, if Vaughn upset CF Montreal and then play TFC,
yeah.
what the fuck?
I
Like,
w- you're rooting for the like I'm going into those games rooting for the upset for
yeah,
sure. Like rooting for
big time.
TSS, rooting for FC Laval, rooting for Vaughn, and then when it gets to the next stage, rooting for all the CPL teams against the MLS teams. Like you just want to go for the teams that cause the most controversy. Definitely.
Yeah, well, like look at what Wrexham's doing in the FA Cup right now. It's fucking incredible. Like
Yeah.
the whole world is now watching. Like they're like, oh
Correct.
my god, are they going to do it again?
Yeah.
So to have that kind of just in our own borders would be really, really, really cool.
Definitely.
And then yeah, you know what? You touched on this earlier. Alfonso Davies dropped for the DFB Pokal game for João Cancelo,
Yeah, I know.
and it only took him 17 minutes to get an assist.
Correct. So it was DFB Pokal, just from my understanding, because I watched some German football, but not that much. That's their cup competition, correct?
It's their version of the FA Cup.
Okay, perfect. So
Yeah.
that makes a lot more sense to me. I don't think Fonzie's position's in jeopardy. I think it's a perfect time to get him some rest and get João Cancelo some minutes. The only tricky part is, and again, I don't watch enough German football to know, but I wonder what they consider more high profile of a game. Is it the league games because they just run away with it every single year,
They're
or is it
not
the
this year
cup
though.
games?
They're not running away with it.
Fair enough.
They
See,
lost. They lost the weekend.
there you go. So that's probably it. They're probably just resting Fonzie to get some because they're probably going to have to go a little bit deeper in the league and it'll be a little bit more competitive than in future years. So that's all I read into it as of right now. I actually think I was listening to some podcasts that Cancelo is actually going to come in and play right back from my understanding. Like he's apparently that Pavard's not like in the highest of favor right now. And they have a couple youngsters in those spots as well in his backup. So I think they bought Wow in for like right back safety instead of left back safety. I think it just fits that Fonzie probably needed a break and the kid can play on Wow Cancelo can play on the left-hand side. So I don't think it's too much of a concern, but we will for sure be monitoring it. They framed it like it was. I saw everyone saying Fonzie lost his spot. And I did a little bit more research. I'm like, okay, it's a cup game one. And the guy's he's probably gonna play on the right side.
Yeah. And they've got the best back four in the world now.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone can argue. You got João Cancelo on the right. And even that, I'm sorry, their best fullback in the team is playing as a 6 in Joshua Kimmich.
And that's
like,
Kimmich. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy, right? Like, so you've got João Cancelo on the right, then you've got Upamecano and Dalit as your 2 center backs.
Yeah.
And then at left back, you've got Fonzie or Lucas Hernandez, who did his ACL, so he's not there. But like, what the hell?
I know. No, Bayern do the best piece of transfer business. And I was listening to the same thing I was listening to. They were like, they don't overspend in the transfer market for situations like this. Like they're always monitoring. Apparently, like they're known for like kind of finding the disgruntled player, kind of having the cash so they can pay his wages and they get these transfers in for cheap. So
well, part of what they do and Dortmund do as well is they're typically a lot higher on agent fees.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Gotcha.
So they pay outrageous agent fees. And you're like, that was the whole thing. How did Dortmund sign Holland for like 30 mil?
Yeah.
And his agent fee was outrageous.
Makes sense.
That's why. So they like, oh, it's a good way for you to go in your career, right? So if agents do have the trust of their players, like it's an easier way to go about it, I think. But yeah, he's not in jeopardy of losing his spot. Give me a fucking break.
No, there's no
That
chance.
was part of the discussion prior to the World Cup where it was like Fonzie got hurt.
Yeah.
And then yeah, like Gareth Wheeler going, dude, there's no point in playing that game. They're currently 1 point. They're in first by 1 point.
Wow.
They're
Okay.
3 points at a fifth.
Yeah.
Like I'm sorry. You didn't say anything about any other player getting hurt up to it.
Yeah.
Why are Inter Milan playing Romelu Lukaku? Well, because
Yeah.
they're trying, like, that's who they're employed for, man.
Yeah.
Give me a fucking break. It's the
That's who
stupidest take I've ever heard.
that's who they work for. No, that's who pays his wages at the end of the day, no matter how much World Cup and international bonuses these guys get. But yeah, I'm super happy as an Arsenal fan. Peace out, Wild Cancelo. I hope Nathan Ake starts underperforming and we run away with the league. But and then they have no backup at left back. So yeah, later, Wild Cancelo. Don't need you in the Prem, and have fun. Eventually winning the German Championship, potentially winning the UEFA Champions League and whatever cup game.
Big game. They play PSG coming up, man.
I know.
That'll be good. And then okay, so we'll just touch on the Prem really quickly with two topics. Number one, Nottingham Forest have signed 29 players
Yeah.
in 2022, 2023.
Actually insane.
That is out, which is part of why it's a bigger discussion, but the Premier League model is pretty fucking unsustainable.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, and I don't even know what they're gonna do. Like, well, to be fair, they're doing all right in the Prem, so they're not doing too bad in the Prem. What I think they're mid-table. They're not in the relegation battle right now. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, I
Uh,
think they're close, man. They're
they're
close.
close.
They were doing well in the cup.
I
They're in
thought
they're
they're
in
a 30.
13th. They're 21. They're only 4 points out of the relegation zone, man.
Oh, so they're in a fight. Okay, I
Yeah.
thought they're out of the top 3 right now.
Yeah. So they're in 13th. They're on 21, but they're at minus 19 goal difference.
Shit. Yeah.
Like it's tight. Like Southampton are in dead last at 15.
Yeah.
So they're only 6 points up on dead last.
fair enough. Shoot, I thought they were.
No, they did well in the Carabao Cup. They lost to United in the semifinal.
Yeah. Actually, you
So
know what?
there's
Yeah, no, you know what? 13's not bad. I'm looking at it right now. Like they're 7 spots clear. They're ahead of
4.
Leeds.
Yeah. Yeah, but bottom 3 get relegated.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry. They're of the bottom. They're what? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, four spots clear. Honestly, they haven't been. Yeah, their goal differential is absolutely shocking. But truthfully, I think they're going to be okay. Um, it sucks about the players. Like, I don't know what they're doing. I think they're just on like Russian roulette, seeing who can stick, who can get form, who can't. I know obviously a lot of guys are on loan. Richie, one of a close one to us, obviously being one of them. So not all of them are technically at the club, but it just sucks as a player there. Like I remember even the motivation when they got promoted and we knew Richie was at the club and everyone was super excited. Like, how can you be a player if you're one of 29 or one of 24 or 25? It's almost like the Chelsea squad, how they're currently kind of developed right now and what they look like, even though they look loaded. Like, imagine being the third option at winger or midfielder and you're on like 100K a week. It doesn't even make sense. But hey, whatever works. If they stay up, they're gonna look genius. And maybe Everton and Southampton and AFC Bournemouth should have taken the same philosophy because technically speaking, they're 13th right now. So they could technically stay up, and then what? Sending all these 29 players, your job done. Release them, put them all on loan in year 2, and you're still in the Prem.
Yeah. Do you think what was your take on Richie? So regardless whether they stay up or go down, sign that many guys, they're bound to lose a shit ton.
Yeah. So if I'm Richie and I'm a friend of Richie, so if he's watching or anyone else, so I know Richie pretty well. I think and I've been like this for Canadians, so I get it, and I speak to these guys on a daily basis. Like making that jump to Europe is just what you want to check off on your box of things to do. Like even Jonathan David right now, like he wants to make another move, and that's just something you want to do. So I get that, and you always want to aspire for more as a footballer. But I also think where you thrive. And some of us reach that plateau. And I say this when I speak to kids at our events and stuff like that. Like, you're eventually going to reach your max. For instance, my max was playing Division I soccer. Wasn't going to play an itcha professional. We all reached that. I do think Richie has another level. I just don't know if it's in the Prem or in that team. Like, you saw, he did very well at the FIFA World Cup and did amazing against guys that are in top 5 leagues. So it's not like he can't do it. But I just don't know if fighting for a spot at Nottingham Forest is the right situation. I think maybe trying something else, asking for a loan move. He's obviously in preseason with TFC right now. So I think he kind of just makes the most out of that now. And then when that contract expires or whatever the case, hopefully he can get back to Europe for their preseason, if that makes sense. So like this summer, trying to get somewhere else. But yeah, I could see him playing in France. Like, I could see him playing in a lot of different spots, Germany. I think he can do it, but that Nottingham Forest situation is just, it just seems like it's negative. Like, I would just get out. It just seems weird. It just seems weird. And even the guy who was playing above him's not playing. Jed Spence isn't even playing. So who knows if he gets shipped back out there? Like, you never know how these things go. And yeah, if I'm him, there's just certain situations that don't look that great. So I would stay away.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Spence, I don't know if it went through, but I saw he was supposed to be on loan to Rennes in France.
Oh, really? I didn't even know if that went through. Wow.
I don't know if it went through on the last day, but that's what they were talking about with him. Yeah, like I don't disagree with it. I think that's just the unsustainability of the English model right now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there was more money spent by Chelsea.
Yeah. Then
Like, the new owner spent more money than La Liga as a league and the Bundesliga as a league. Like, it's kind of insane. And so, I definitely think Richie's good enough to play in a top 5 league. Like, I don't think that's without question.
Yeah.
But whether or not you want to do it, and again, this is the personal side of it. Do you want to go to a country where you don't speak the language?
Yeah.
Where your family doesn't speak the language?
The cultural shock. Yeah.
Like, that's a huge ask. Exactly. That's what I mean. Like, where he's at in his personal life, like maybe it is, yeah, I'm gonna go give it one more try with Nottingham Forest. And if it doesn't work, then back to TFC. You know what I mean? Like, I want him to try, though. I really want him to try and to stay over there, because I think that just raises the profile of the entire program.
For sure.
And especially for him, also him doing it at a later age, there's a Canadian who did that at a later age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who made that step in his prime and was able to walk in and do it. And that just helps raise the profile of other Canadians that we have as well. But yeah, he's got to make a decision that's going to be right for him and his family.
Exactly.
And then just to finish off the conversation that is all the rage on Twitter and social media right now, who inherited a worse squad, Ten Hag or Arteta?
Go first. You can go first.
Who do I think inherited a worse squad overall? I'm going to say Ten Hag.
Okay.
Barely. Why? Because I looked at the whole squad. I didn't look at the starting fucking 11 that he inherited.
No problem. Go through your squad.
Okay, here's the Arsenal squad. Ready? This is who they had that season when Arteta took over.
Okay.
Bert Leno, good goalkeeper.
Shit.
Hector Bellerin, Kieran Tierney, Mohamed El Neni. They had Socrates, Henrik Mkhitaryan, Danny Ceballos, Lacazette, Ozil, Torreira, Aubameyang, Maitland Niles, Rob Holding, Cedric Soares, Nicolas Pepe, who you spent 80 million on.
Oh, don't tell me about spent. Do not talk about spent bread. But go on. Go on.
Mustafa, Alan Chambers, Pablo Mari, David Luiz, Reece Nelson, World Cup winner Emiliano Martinez, Joe Willock, Matteo Guendouzi. Was he with the French team during this World Cup as well?
Didn't play, but yes.
Okay, so another one. Eddie Nketiah, Sed Kolasinac, Emil Smith-Rowe, Granit Xhaka, Gabriel Martinelli, Bukayo Saka, and William Saliba. That's the team he inherited.
Okay, William Saliba on loan. Okay, got it. So we'll make a combined 11. We'll make a combined 11 to solve the doubt.
Okay, and here's the thing. So I'm willing to, like, again, within this stuff, there's injuries and shit like that, right? Like, there's all that kind of stuff that goes into it. So
we'll make a combined 11.
Yeah, okay. And then here's the United one. So David De Gea,
Oh, I got it. Hold on.
Oh, you got it up. So this is
Don't
the one at
worry.
the end of 2021, 22.
Yeah, 2021, 2022.
Okay.
I got it. Hold on. Um, David De Gea. So who's starting, De Gea or Leno?
I mean, I'm taking day.
Of course. So that's one.
Yeah.
So whoever gets the 6, it's the weaker squad. Lindelof.
I'm not taking Lindelof in the team.
Well, can I
Trying to look
take?
at who do you have at center? Who would you put at center back?
I would put.
Or do you take like, you know what? I take De Gea because the other thing I'm going to say is obviously this is also indicative of the time. Like, who would take Emiliano Martinez from 2019?
Correct. Exactly.
Right. There is that side of it.
Yeah. Okay. So, Lindelof, or I guess at that point you got to take No, you got to take the. Yeah. No, I'm not taking any of them. Any of my Arsenal center backs. Saliba's on loan, so he's not even there. So you have to take Lindelof. There's no one else.
Well, you take Varane.
Oh yeah, shit. Yeah, Varane. Okay, so that's that. There's that. Let's go other center back. You got to take Maguire. You have to,
You have to, eh?
because our center backs are that bad. So
That's
you
pretty
got
shocking, to be honest with you.
You got 3 guys off the jump. Let me keep going. Let's just go right backs. So our right back, Hector Bellerin, shocking. Who's your right back? Bakayo. Sorry, not Bakayo.
Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
Aaron
You're
Wan-Bissaka.
taking Hector Bellerin. 100% you're taking Hector Bellerin.
I don't rate Hector Bellerin, but I can see the appreciation. Hector Bellerin is okay. I'll give you that one, but just give me one on the back end. It's 3-1, but
Actually,
give me
you know what? You know what I would do instead? I'd probably, given the how weak these two squads are, to be honest with you, I think they go back 3.
Okay.
Kieran
So
Tierney
Varane,
plays as left
Maguire.
center. Kieran Tierney plays as a left center back.
So you're taking Kieran Tierney over Luke Shaw.
At left center back last year, yeah. At the time, 100%. Luke Shaw didn't.
Yeah, Kieran Tierney had a good year last year or 2 years ago. Yeah, okay.
So I would take that would be my back 3.
All right. So
And now
in
you're doing
defense, it's 3-1
right now, yeah.
Okay. So center mids. So you guys got Fred, and you guys got Fred. Oh, you still had Scott McTominay. Or
Great player.
or Matic. We would have had. No, we didn't have Partey yet. No.
No Partey yet.
We would have had
Xhaka.
Xhaka, yeah. Oh shit. Back then though, not Xhaka now. Xhaka or Fred? You have to compare the two. That's dead even. I'm taking Xhaka probably.
I'm taking Xhaka because he's just his range of pass.
Yeah. Okay. So that's 3-2. Other center mid. We gotta go. Scott McTominay's garbage, and who played beside Xhaka? Who was our second midfielder? Who played D mid when Partey wasn't here?
It was probably just Torreira. Here's the thing. I'm like, just based on also profile, I'm probably gonna sit there and probably say, what, you're gonna throw Ozil as the 10 and Pogba as the other guy. But Pogba wasn't even playing at the end of last year. Like, Pogba missed so many games.
Hey, it's inherited. Who did he have when he was at training sessions?
He left Pogba. Pogba left. They sold him in the summer. This is just the team. This is their squad, right? Like, Pogba was gone, so Pogba wasn't even available.
Okay. I'll give you that. Okay.
So you can't say Pogba.
Yeah, I would have put Slot.
Oh, easy. So you got Ozil and probably Bruno Fernandes.
Oh yeah, but is Ozil still on our team with Arteta?
Ozil started his first game with Arteta.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. So yeah, Ozil and Hernandez. Oh yeah, you definitely put Fernandez in there. Okay.
Yeah, Bruno's in there.
So then we have, so what is that? 4-3.
Yeah.
4-3, midfield's done. Let's go. So I guess we're going 3-5-2. So let's go wingers. Bukayo for sure.
So you got Saka on one side.
Yeah. And now comes the debate. I think you have to put Rashford.
He was shit.
He
was so bad last year.
You still have to put Rashford because he still is better. Well, they both kind of came off under Martinelli. So you have to put Martinelli just started playing well this year. Like he was good last year, but he wasn't great. So you have to put Rashford. That's 5. And then
I mean, the argument, huh? Okay, that's fine. That's fine. And I mean, I guess the last one up top, I think Aubameyang's a lock.
Aubameyang's a lock, correct. And then the second striker is between Ronaldo, Cavallini,
Lacazette, Martial.
Martial. I think I'm probably going with your guys. So it's closer than I thought. But it's
You probably have to go with Ronaldo, but the whole situation you have to deal with.
Yeah, you can't not put Ronaldo in there. For sure. You can't not.
Yeah, I think like
I think Martial is better than Lacazette.
I think
even the second guy.
Yeah, but at the time though, as well, though, right? Like it's difficult because Martial again was injured in preseason.
Yeah,
like it's one of those things. Like I think where the conversation got fucked up was when it was like, oh, look at their first teams, and you're like, yeah, but Ten Hag signed Martinez, he signed Eriksen.
Yeah, but he didn't
inherit them. He didn't inherit them. He signed them as a manager, right?
Yeah.
Like
that's not the same. I agree, but you can rebuild a team very quickly. Shout out Chelsea. Like,
and they're fighting for the top half of the Prem right now. Sick.
Yeah, for now. Next year, oh shit.
Oh, they're totally fucked next year because they're not making Champions League, and FIFA Fair Play is going to come in. It has to. I'm sorry, it has to. If they don't get sanctioned for all this bullshit,
they're just spending money.
They're not allowed to spend that. You can't spend beyond what you make though, and they're not making that much money, and they won't if they don't make the Champions League.
Fair enough.
They're talking about there is something about Man United. They're not gonna be able to sign all the players they want if they don't make the Champions League this year. And you're like, how? Chelsea? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, fair enough. We'll see.
Yeah, no, I think honestly, it's funny though because both managers have done an outrageously good job.
Yeah,
with what they've been given. I think Arteta's got more pressure on him than Ten Hag does.
For this year, for sure. Just because where we are in the table, it's almost to a point where you need to win. And people forget because Arsenal, like non-Arsenal fans kind of forget, but we all wanted Arteta's head last year because he lost his Champions League. Like he was literally probably like this year, if we didn't make Champions League this year, which we should, knock on wood, but like
they will.
It was he was under scrutiny last year for blowing that Champions League spot to Tottenham. We had like a 4 or 5 point lead heading into our last few games, and Tottenham kind of came out underneath us and took it. So he wasn't in the highest favor, long story short. But yeah, he's turned it around. Credit to him. That philosophy is working wonders, and yeah, excited to see where it takes us. Long story short, hopefully we can, next time I hop on here, we got a championship that I'll be celebrating.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, because of last year and because it's the same group, that's why I'm skeptical if they get it over the line, because it's like, okay, well, you're trying to do it with the same group again who just proved that they couldn't.
Yeah.
So until they can and do, like you kind of have to sit there. Like you're going up against a City team that's proven it over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, I do like our transfer window though. The window was great. You can tell something's going on at City. Like I think they're gonna go through a massive rebuild, especially if they don't win. But you can just tell that things are starting to tick over. Like the same old City. Like we have Jesus now, we have Zinchenko. While Cancelo's gone, like you're starting to see they're gonna probably Bernardo Silva every single transfer window is on the block saying he's gonna be transferred, never does. So there's going to be I think there'll be a new change, not changing of the guard, but watch their summer transfer window. I think it's going to be something of the ages. And they're going to bring in they're going to go on a Chelsea spree and just revamp the whole thing.
Well, as a Man United fan, I hope that they just collapse and burn. Like, that'd be nice.
If they don't win Champions League, trust me, even De Bruyne, his comments with Belgium, like it just becomes monotonous, like over and over doing the same, winning the league and not winning Champions League. It'll be interesting. Obviously, they still have Haaland, so they're still going to win a lot of games and score a lot of goals. But I think the team itself might look a lot different.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think they're right in that kind of part where I think Gundogan's going. They're going to lose a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Who are kind of looking for either a new opportunity or to be like, I think for Gundogan, it's like, this is my last contract.
For sure.
I want to play. I can't be a role player anymore, kind of thing.
For sure.
But yeah, no, the run is going to be interesting. The weird part is like, we're talking like it's February now. We're only halfway through the league because of the World Cup.
I know.
Half of like, there is so much football left to be played. Like literally, like late April is going to be like the key time, which is so weird to see, so weird to think about. But I think like for Arsenal's sake, I think like the pressure is going to start to mount, because if the Prem does start to slip, like all of a sudden emphasis is going to turn to Europa League.
Yeah,
because he's got to win something this year. He has to.
Yeah, I would rather them just tank Europa League, whether you win it or not, and just focus on this league. I think you have a legitimate shot, especially if you can get that first victory or a result in your first game against City. Like imagine you beat City in that, because we gotta face them twice. You win that, like, and I loved what we did in the transfer window. I think Trossard's gonna help. Kid had a hat trick against Liverpool. Jorginho, we'll see. I know Partey's injury prone, but at least he can stand in there for a couple games and knock ball a little bit. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how. But I liked our transfer window. I thought it was a good window.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good window, even though we had some misses. How did you feel about Man United? You guys brought in some new guy, right?
Yeah, they brought in Veghorst up top, which again, like they don't have the legs this year, man. I've said that they were never in a title race.
Yeah.
Yes, if they would have beat our looked more like it. If they beat Palace and beat Arsenal, it would have been like, okay, no, yeah, like they're in it. They're not in it. And it's the same thing with Arsenal right now. I don't know that they have fully the legs to get over the line.
Sure.
Like just it, like, and that's the thing, like Partey's injury prone. Yeah, he is. Like if he goes down and he misses months, it now gets a little bit sketchier. Like if you're like, both squads are just a couple injuries or suspensions away from collapsing, because they're still at that rebuild stage.
Correct.
They just are. You know, it's one of those things that I find for both squads. Like I think Nketiah has done a really good job replacing Gabriel Jesus.
Yeah.
And I think Arsenal in total have done a good job of scoring by committee so far.
Yeah.
But I'm still waiting for someone to step up and be like, nah, we're gonna go. Like the fact that Haaland has scored more goals already than I think it was the Golden Boot winner for the last 5 seasons or something like that is absurd. And you're just like, they need someone to step up and, match how many goals Harry Kane gets. And United's the same way. They need someone to do that as well. And if Rashford can do it, I don't know. This year maybe, but it's a year where they're not in the race. So it depends if they can do it while they're in a race, which will be interesting. But I just enjoy watching Man United again, which is nice. That's the nicest part.
Same. Well, Arsenal, but same.
Yeah, get to watch them play Barcelona, which will be fun. And
100%.
Those games don't just terrify me. They're like, oh, this will be exciting. Not just like, oh my God, I hope they don't get battered.
Exactly. The life of a football fan.
Big time.
The life of a football fan. All right, man.
All right, my man. Thank you so much for hopping on and jumping on being a co-host today.
Pleasure. It was fun. You and Kwame keep killing it. And I'll jump on in a couple of episodes. I'll be an avid listener. Go back to my avid listening in the meantime. But yeah, thanks for having me.
For sure. Hopefully, I'll get you on every single time Arsenal drop points or something.
No, not available. Not available. All right, lad.
Cheers, pal.